Hello, my name is Caitlin Armstrong, and I'm a school-based therapist with Access Counseling Services, currently serving as the mental health coordinator for Monroe Local Schools. Today, I will be providing you with information on impulse control, including interventions on how to help students learn to better manage impulses and self-regulate. In order to understand impulse control, we must first understand what impulses are and the difference between impulsive behavior and compulsive behavior. Impulses are the influence of a particular feeling, sudden involuntary inclination prompting to action, a psychic drive, or an instinctual urge. The biggest difference to note between impulsive behavior and compulsive behavior is that impulses are instinctual, acting without thinking, whereas compulsive behavior is based on thoughts and urges that are often premeditated. Impulse, is it good or bad? Is it bad to act upon instinct? Not always. Many times impulses can be protective factors. Take, for example, the fight, flight, or freeze response. This is the idea that when we perceive that we are in danger, we instinctively and impulsively respond in one of three ways: fight, flight, or freeze, in order to protect ourselves. Although impulses are natural instincts and can at times be helpful, it's important that we learn to control them. When an individual is unable to control their impulses on a daily basis, it can begin to interfere with daily life and present problematic behaviors. This may be when an impulse control disorder is at play, which I will talk a little more about in a few slides. The frontal lobes are involved in motor function, problem solving, spontaneity, memory, language, initiation, judgment, impulse control, and social and sexual behaviors. It's important to take both developmental considerations and risk factors into account when looking at impulse control. Impulse control is a learned developmental skill that begins around 18 months and continues as a child grows. Children between 18 months and 4 years of age are developing the ability to understand delayed gratification versus instant gratification, therefore sharpening their ability to control impulses. There are also risk factors involved that can impede a child's ability to develop these skills. Some risk factors include gender. Males are more likely to suffer from impulse control disorders than females. Genetics. A family history of mental illness and impulse control disorders can lead to a predisposition for impulse control disorders. Lack of modeled behavior. A child who has a caregiver who struggles to control impulses may have difficulty learning skills that are not appropriately modeled for them. Exposure to trauma. A child who has experienced traumatic events such as abuse, neglect, or domestic violence is also at a higher risk of experiencing an impulse control disorder. The DSM-5, otherwise known as the Diagnostic Statistics Manual, includes a section on disruptive, impulse control, and conduct disorders, where impulse control disorders are outlined. Some of these disorders include oppositional defiant disorder, intermittent explosive disorder, antisocial personality disorder, conduct disorder, OCD or obsessive compulsive disorder, kleptomania, and attention deficit disorder. While ADHD is not classified as an impulse control disorder, lack of impulse control is a common symptom of ADHD. Please take a moment to watch the video link on the PowerPoint slide for more information on each of these disorders. Symptoms associated with impulse control disorders often present themselves in many different ways. What might this look like for some kids? Some kids might do silly or inappropriate things to get attention, have trouble following the rules consistently, be aggressive towards other kids. Hitting, kicking, or biting is common. Having trouble waiting their turn in games, conversation, lines, grabbing things from other people, or pushing in line. Overreacting to frustration, disappointment, mistakes, and criticism. They always want to have the last word and the first turn. They don't understand how their words or behavior affect other people. Not able to understand the consequences of their actions. Take more risks with dating, sexual promiscuity, driving, and alcohol or drugs. Lying, stealing or kleptomania, destroying property, displaying explosive anger, having sudden outbursts, physical and verbal, harming other people and animals, pulling one's own hair, brows, and lashes, also known as trichotillomania, and eating compulsively or overeating. Below are the social emotional learning standards for self-management, which includes the importance of impulse control. You will also see below a link to a PowerPoint presentation completed by Access Counseling's own Brenda Day, specifically highlighting the self-management pillar and its importance to social-emotional learning. Please feel free to take a look for a more in-depth discussion on self-management. Self-management is the ability to successfully regulate one's emotions, thoughts, and behaviors in different situations, effectively managing stress, controlling impulses, and motivating oneself. The ability to set and work towards personal and academic goals. Over the next 2 slides, I will provide you with 2 interventions to help promote impulse control for elementary-age children. Red light, green light is a fun way to teach elementary-age children about controlling impulses. This can also be easily adapted as a game to play in the classroom. You can instruct your children to dance at their seats instead of running towards you in a large room. Dance quickly for green, slowly for yellow, and freeze for red. Once you've had some fun with it, you can utilize the prompts on the stoplight provided to help remind your students to stop and think before giving the green light. Jeopardy Labs is a fun and interactive tool that is great to use both in the classroom or remotely with screen sharing. This allows you to create your own game questions that center around impulse control. Some examples may include, name one time you use self-control at home. What are some consequences at school if you don't use self-control? What does self-control mean? And name someone who's really good at using self-control. Have fun with it, and kids always love to play Jeopardy! Over the next 2 slides, I will share interventions that can be implemented with middle school age children. This intervention is a Zones of Regulation Cootie Catcher. A cootie catcher is a fun way to brainstorm coping skills, and it's easy for kids to keep at school as a reminder. This can be utilized ahead of time to help have coping skills prepared, or it can be used in the moment as a reminder to stop and think. I've provided a link for instructions on how to make a cootie catcher with a blank piece of paper. It can be fun to brainstorm coping skills together in case they get stuck and need some ideas. This can be easily implemented in the classroom or remotely with just a piece of paper. This next intervention can be as creative or as simple as you would like. Have a conversation with your kids about the difference between what is within our power to control and what is out of our control. Focus on how we can improve the way we respond to things that are within our control and how we can focus on letting go of the things that are outside of our control. Take a look at the graphic on the slide. Think about some of the things that are within our control and think about some of the things that are outside of our control. Are there some things that you could have more control over? Are there some things that you should let go of because they're outside of your control? Over the next 3 slides, I will provide interventions that can be implemented with high school age children. Mindfulness activities are a good way for teenagers to stop and reflect. This can be anything from coloring to listening to a guided meditation. Drawing and coloring a mandala is a good form of meditation that allows for time for self-reflection. Instruct them to take the time to reflect on the week or day's events. Was there a time throughout the week that they acted on impulse? Was there a time that they practiced good impulse control? Was there room for improvement? I've provided a link to show instructions on how to draw a mandala. Have fun with it. If you want to change the world, pick up your pen and write. Journaling with prompts is a great way to promote self-regulation and reflect on the week's events. What are some good prompts to use for kids? What does self-control mean to you? Do you think self-control is important? Why or why not? Think of a time when you displayed good self-control. Think of a time when you could have used better self-control. Let your kids know that they can share their responses with you or keep it for themselves just for reflection. Twitter tragedy. This is a fun activity that can be used to show the importance of practicing impulse control on social media. Chances are your students will be able to think of a celebrity or a friend who posted something on social media without stopping to think. Did this lead to consequences? What about celebrities who have posted impulsively on social media? Some examples might include Donald Trump, Kanye West, and Roseanne Barr. This intervention may bring up some controversial topics, so feel free to do some research ahead of time to find some humorous examples to include as well. Explore how posting impulsively and acting emotionally on social media has impacted individuals, including celebrities. How does this relate to consequences when we act impulsively? Who do we talk to when we want to react? And what steps can we take to avoid it? Thank you so much for listening. I hope you learned some helpful information today. Feel free to reach out with any questions or additional information on this topic and interventions provided. Keep an eye out for another Friday 15 presentation next week.